Are they ready anytime, or do I need to give them a signal? Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the December Emerging Market Interest Group meeting. My name is David Su, and I'm with Windows Global Platform Technologies and Services Group as part of Windows. Today's topic is about Windows Longhorn market customizations. Our speaker today is Ignasios Ikatasas. He's a colleague of mine in GPTS. And what market customization is about is how to make Windows more relevant, more closer to customers around the world. Make it feel more local, make it feel more something that is people can relate to and people can feel passionate about. And since Ignacy started here in Redmond, he's been working on this initiative, and I'm very pleased to introduce him. So without any further ado, Ignacy.
Okay, so market customizations. Market customizations are about customizing Windows for the market. So if we look at what makes up for Windows, we've got vertical experiences, pillars, we've got components, we've got a bunch of things, right? So what we do is we look at every way in which we can divide Windows, and then we decide, is there anything we can do in this component or in this area to make it be more local? That means things like perception, so it is perceived as a local thing. Things like feature extensions, so we meet specific requirements we have in that market, or even things like, let's say, a specific experience or vertical pillar of the product might be incomplete for a specific market. So we look at these kind of things, and the ultimate goal is have Windows look, feel, and behave as if we had designed that product for that market we're going to. So if today we had to start Windows from scratch, and our market was, let's say, India, it would be very different to what it is now. Very, very different. So unfortunately, we cannot do that. So there is, however, one thing we can do is make sure that what we create from the US is actually a global common thing that meets everyone's requirements. So let's say like the minimum denominator of everyone's requirements. And on top of that, we can actually build what makes that product different. So if we had developed a Windows for India, a Windows for the States, and let's say a Windows for South Africa, and we looked at the common part, that's what we want Windows to be. That's what we really want Windows to be. And all the differences, we want to create these market packs that actually build on top of the product and create that. So I'll go, stop me anytime. I have a bunch of backup slides. This is a lot about why we're doing this and what it is about in general. I've got some screenshots and some specific visuals. There's a lot in the backup slides, so let me know if you're interested in that. So basically, we've got these two parts: the global design, the universal requirements across the world, and then the local flavor, the local requirements. Think of let's suppose that everyone in the world eats chicken, all cultures, and there's chicken sandwiches everywhere, which I don't know. Okay, it wouldn't be easy to think that a chicken sandwich, for example, in Mexico, will be spicy as hell, and a chicken sandwich probably in a Nordic country will be even sweet, like in a European northern country would probably be sweet. And the ingredients you put in the chicken sandwiches might be different to actually suit those, I would say, tastes, but also like cultural paradigms, sociocultural paradigms, even like, just pure taste or or other things. So the bottom line at the end is like we've got the worldwide binary, so that would be the chicken sandwich. Then the market pack and the language pack actually make up for that specific taste, for that cultural divide in a way, that cultural bridge between the product and the end user. So market customization is a lot like localization. It's just with localization what we do is we translate, and in theory we adapt, but we adapt for a language. Like let's say we've got Spanish. Spanish has 26 plus markets. English, a bunch of them too. Arabic, a lot, right? So we're doing that for language. We're language oriented, and we go with one language. We try to go to as many markets as we can. And if we could, I guess in the past we would have never translated Windows. If we would have gotten away with everyone learning English, for example, right? I mean, so that's one of the things that is mainly different. Market customization is about adapting the product. Obviously, language is a very important part of adapting, as we were saying before. But one market has one or more languages. We know Switzerland, we know India, we know, everyone knows, I mean, Quebec, everyone knows an example, right? Until now, we were shipping to different SKUs in Canada, like in Quebec. So you either buy the English product or you buy the French product. You cannot do cross installations. There's a bunch of things you can do. And obviously the French product is optimized for France. So when you launch it, you go to MSN French, France, and the US product is optimized for the US. So there's this, and that's language optimized. That's not even like code optimized. So language specific settings, no language specific settings. One flavor fits all markets. We have more than one flavor per market, hopefully. So as all of you know, like different regions within one country have different, sometimes cultures, languages, needs. So the bottom line is that we're shipping new functionality. We're creating functionality supersets, so we're extending the functionality that already exists. We're creating supersets of visuals and customizations. So if there's 8 available backgrounds, for example, we want to ship 16 that are local and no global ones at all, or maybe yes. And we're going to have market-specific settings. So an example, a very stupid example is the homepage. And we're globalized enough to actually have a homepage. We have forward links that go into the internet, check your user locale, and then do the right thing. So in a way, that's already a form of market customization. But we've got other functional settings, like a good example is Chile, for example. They have an average of 12 Ks of modem connection, regardless of the modem you're using. And on top of that, their call waiting story is very, very bad. So you get an average of 8, 9 connection drops the hour, right? So you've got a slow connection that drops all the time. If we disable call waiting for that market, those drops will not happen. But we cannot disable call waiting for the global product, because it doesn't work like that, like in Chile everywhere in the world, so it's not a representative. So we can have these sort of like setting exceptions as well that minimize PSS costs and all that. So the why is software and technology in general is about providing solutions to problems, to needs and requirements, and also to help people innovate and realize their potential. We cannot do this if we don't know the customer. And we're only talking about the market here. We're not even talking about, we're supposing that everyone in a market, or we're looking at this market customer in a way, right? I guess one of the next steps for market customization is to go deeper and do things per customer or per persona or something like that. And, customers are really different depending on the market. I really like this sentence from, and I always forget the name of, McDonald's founder. But, take care of the customer and the business will take care of itself. It looks like, in a way, today we're taking care of our customers, but our preferred customers. So we're taking care of our partners. We're kind of like scratching to make quick bucks. And we're not really focusing on really meeting those end user requirements. We talk about, that only affects 2% of the users. Well, that's probably like 25 million people, right? So there's some things there to look at. So let's just go very fast. This is from GlobeSmart. Everyone has access to it. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I wasn't. I just recently found out, thanks Tracy. And it tells us, basically it is a socio-cultural snapshot. And it says like how independent or interdependent we are, how much egalitarianism is important in that culture, and how much the status of a person or the status of a group is important, how afraid are we of risk, or how in favor are we of risk, how direct are we in our communications or indirect. So again, you know, if we've got a high status culture, then probably communication will be indirect because you don't want to offend that person. There's some things you have to do in order to meet those things. Are we relationship enabled? I mean, relationship based. So we need to create this big networking, know people in order to get things done, or are we just like task oriented? Hey, this is what I want to do. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's go do it. Do we focus on the details short term, or do we focus on the long term? Short term and long term is a very interesting thing, as well as relationship and the other ones, all combined. But in a way, one very good example is buying a car, right? Leasing is super popular in the States. You go somewhere else, leasing is more or less popular depending on how close socioculturally we are to, you know, being direct, task-oriented, and short-term fixed. But usually, say in a country like China, or in most European countries, it's changing, but it depends on the European country, and we'll see it later. I've got profiles for some regions. When you buy a car forever, 8 years, 9 years. There's obviously a status associated with the car you drive. There's some other things, but basically you expect that car to work from day one till, you know, 8 years later, more or less. You know you'll have to maintain it every year, every 2 years, but that's what you do. Here we talk about upgrading our house, our car. I mean, upgrade is a word that is very commonly used, and I was surprised. I just moved here a year ago, and people were talking about upgrading their cars, upgrading their homes, upgrading things. That was, you know, upgrading for me was only a computer thing. You upgrade your software. You know, that's who invented it, upgrading software. I mean, otherwise, I don't upgrade things. I just fix them, right? I either fix it or that's it, or buy a new one, but I don't upgrade things. So if we look at this, we'll see I've got the US and Canada on top, so you can see this reference. This is South America, okay, Mid and South America. So you start seeing some pretty big differences. Argentina is more or less close, but if you look at Venezuela, it's all the way to the right. This is Western Europe, pretty close, pretty similar. Some big differences on risk and restraint for Switzerland, so we know that the Swiss are different, right? But more or less in line.
Is there any particular meaning to this? Why certain, you know, why some of these poles are on the right side versus the left side? Is there some general trend?
That's I don't know. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. The question is there a reason why some of these countries are more to the left and some of the other countries are more to the right? I'm not a sociologist.
Organized such that, you know, interdependent is on the right, status is on the right, restraint.
Oh, I have no idea. I've got no idea. Probably the guy who did it was American and started by the left. I don't know. It's pretty trivial. I have no idea. It doesn't mean that left is good and right is bad or anything.
Right.
I mean, it could be the other way around.
Haven't gotten to those countries yet.
Northern Europe, again, very close. Finland, different. I mean, there's a lot of like Russian influence in Finland, in Finnish history, as you know. Look at Hungary, Turkey, and Russia. Look at Asia, right? That's pretty amazing. So that's a sociocultural thing, and it is not surprising that some people will feel aggressed by the computer or aggressed by the operating system. Like we've got this constant feedback coming from Northern European countries, and that's not, you know, it's pretty close, right? And it was coming from Sweden actually, and I guess it has to do with short-term, long-term, and I don't know now, and restraint and risk. But basically, they hate notifications. Like they don't like to be interrupted. When you talk to them, you talk, you stop, then they go, they talk, you let them finish, then you go again. It's almost like a linear conversation, right? No one talks on top of each other, and you cannot interrupt someone. It's very, very rude. So they're working with their computer and they start seeing things pop up all the time, you know, like battery's going low and now do this, and they feel aggressed. They really feel aggressed. So that's one of their top requests. You're going to customize by market, please get rid of those notifications. We hate them. So Middle East, you can see the difference between Israel and the other countries, for example. South Africa, somewhere in between. Australia, pretty close, except for the short-term, long-term. So why are we doing this?
Can I ask, do you want to
Sure.
more questions
Yeah.
later? Or?
No, we're fine, I think. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to that. You said that was GlobeSmart. I at first thought you were talking about a different project, which is all caps Globe, which was done by a consortium of business schools that measure some similar but some different cultural attributes
Cool.
across just 10 years of data was just published.
Oh.
But across, something like, I think 17,000 managers in 950 companies in 62 countries. And they try to look at, what does this mean for business operations in those countries?
That's okay. So the question is about the
Yeah,
source.
so who is that?
Okay.
Who are the subjects? How did they arrive at their data?
Okay,
That's my
I don't
question.
know. So the question is about the source of the data and where it comes from and how they got to those conclusions. I have no idea. The website is called globesmart.com, I think. And if I'm wrong, just email me and I'll let you know. All employees have access and they explain how they got there. But I don't have a backup slide on that. I'm sorry.
It's like a business traveler's guide. That's what it's meant to be.
It's a business traveler's guide.
How do you approach relationships? What are some of the social mores? And so that's mainly what it's used for. And I've actually never seen these charts, so I don't know exactly where they came to this data. But most of it's just kind of the how-to and navigating.
Okay, so the comment is about GlobeSmart being a website for businessmen to know how to treat people of different cultures, how to approach negotiations and things like that. So, okay, so in theory we cannot ignore the market or the culture, right? The language is spoken. So one example is Tablet PC made a slight mistake. They thought that, well, if we're doing a language and we're doing the U.S. and people in the U.S. handwrite like this, then the language is English, then, we'll just do that, right? But now go to a country where people speak 3 languages, okay? Do they handwrite differently for each language? No, they don't. It's the same person, right? And the same person has different languages they can write, they can use, they can handwrite. So that's where you have to make those distinctions when you look at a solution. What is market dependent and what is customer dependent and what is what is the core technological part, which is actually the recognition itself. But the sample base is not related to language. The sample base is related to culture, where you're from, or where you learn how to handwrite. So the same thing is about the tech trends on many markets. So I don't know if you guys know the story with Europe and ISDN. It was this big thing, and everyone, like the whole infrastructure was put upside down to have ISDN. And, by the time it was done, we had DSL, right? So you've got all these markets where basically they see that happening, they say, we're waiting for DSL. And they jump, just like that, from having a modem connection to having DSL or having cable. And that's the case of China. Like, China is going broadband big time. And they didn't have any intermediate things. It just worked on the infrastructure, go. We cannot assume that markets will have the same progression or the same evolution that ours had. There's a part of purchase power, which you're all familiar with. But we can, and now, and in a way, the consent decree even made things worse, right? Because we cannot sell Windows, have different pricing policies for Windows, period, right? So we need to create a new SKU. We need to, so the price of Windows is fixed by the dollar. There's some things that go up and down, and there's some deals that the subs do. But the bottom line is that, we sell Windows for the same price everywhere. So that's another big problem. And that's about knowing the market, about what people can afford. How many of you would spend a month of salary to buy Office? I don't know, right? You probably have more important things to do or to spend your money with. So bottom line, everything is US only. The personas are US only. Product planning, all the market data we see is US only, and we assume that what's happening in the US is happening worldwide. Usability studies are almost like Washington, King County only. And that's a good awareness thing, and it's good to have those things because they're real users after all. It's a real market, right? But it's not the full picture. And sometimes when we see decisions made in specs and in planning documents, we say, oh, broadband is going 25%. Yeah, we're not shipping anything for telephony. It's like, hey, guys, right? And then what's very curious and very nice is that then we see that new requirements and scenarios are created. Let's say GPRS as, GPRS modems. So when you go and try to download information from the net with your cell phone, or you use your cell phone as a modem, you have 56Ks again, right? Which is what's happening in another side of the world, right? So sometimes we can take advantage of the fact that we shouldn't look at GPRS just only as one thing that is coming up in the States, for example. In Europe, they're using UMTS, most of not really because it got kind of like blown away, but they're using GPRS also. But we have to unify that with the fact that, we still have a lot of modem users. So can we do something about that and say, okay, I have a high latency, low bandwidth connection. Can I have a distillation server or an acceleration server somewhere? Yes.
Why would a phone line have more latency than a network? The velocity of light is the velocity of light, even if you go at 110.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The velocity of light is the velocity of light. Why would a phone line have higher latency than a network? Less bandwidth, yes, but why higher latency?
Because of the cell phone. Oh, the question is, why would a network have higher latency?
No, why would a phone line have more latency?
Why would a phone line have more latency than a network? Well, for one reason would be if you connect too far, right? If I call from here, it would be drop packets in a way. But yes.
There are no packets on the phone.
Well, the TCP. I'm talking about TCP connection.
Oh, TCP/IP, yes.
Okay. So that's, yeah. So, and the other thing is...
Carriers like network.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have been clearer. Yeah, we're talking about not phone conversations, but actually like connecting to the internet with a phone. Yeah, sorry for the confusion. So if we look at revenue, then we can start doing the business thing, right? If we look at revenue, 64% on Windows. This is Windows. 64% is coming from non-US, and that includes Canada, which is a big market. So one of the replies we've all heard is like, well, if people don't like it, they just will not buy it. That's not really true. Even if there are very good alternatives, that's not really true. That's not really true. People will buy it and be disappointed and be deceived and then be really, really, really mad. And we've got the car example, as that I gave earlier, as a sociocultural paradigm or sensitivity. So if we look at this, like Germany is a big revenue contributor. I didn't pick out Japan because the numbers are very close to the US. So we've got a population more or less 1/3. PC base less than 1/3, okay? And if we look at the revenue, how much we make per person, and that's not per computer user, but the person that lives there, and how much we make per computer, well, they're not, per computer they're pretty close. And that's where our business really is. The persons that use computers, right? It's pretty close. Given that, there's a difference in population and there's a difference in PC base. Customer trust, 6%, right? That's amazing. It's like more than 9 out of 10 customers. They don't hate you, but they really don't like you. Okay, 9 out of 10. It's 1 out of 3 in the States, and 1 out of 3 is like you can pick 3 people. Do you use a computer? Do you use a computer? Do you use a computer? You know that one hates you, kind of thing. Obviously, they don't hate you, right? They just don't trust you. 9 out of 10, right? So there's something wrong there. There's obviously Linux is big in Germany. There's SUSE that was bought up. Linux is seen as a European incubated thing because it came from Finland. There's many things, but 9 out of 10 is too much. There's no excuse. There's not, like, out of 10, there's not even one full person that likes you. It's 9 comma whatever. So that's bad. So we think that we can innovate, and there's enough opportunities there to do the right thing, not only for our customers, but also for the company and for the markets. One of the areas that I'm not touching here is about all the stuff we're doing for the local ecosystem. And that's more of our local Windows program, which includes market customizations, things we're doing for the ecosystem, and other government programs and things like that. So this is entirely about the customizations themselves. So today, Longhorn is language neutral. This means that English is just another language. If we erase the English files from the system, the code base is still there, but the system will not run. And you can actually remove the English files, drop Japanese files, the system will be in Japanese. So that's for the UI only. For Blackcomb, we want to be market neutral or market agnostic. So we want to do the exact same thing, but we want to separate what is language, so what is specifically language. Say IME supports supported keyboards, the language pack itself, and anything that is related over there, say proofing tools if that were applicable. And then the market part. So think NLS data, phone rules, anything that is market specific, time, even like time zones for that market, and so on. So in a way, we might end up with this market neutral base that cannot run anywhere, where you need first the language to be able to read it and operate with it, and then the market pack to actually get the stuff that your country needs. There's a lot of advantages, but one that I am a big fan of is bacteria and anti-cannibalization. So let's go to the chicken sandwich example. Let's say a chicken sandwich in, even like here in the south, it's very spicy, too spicy for our taste up here, okay? Who in the right mind would bring it to the northwest, even if it, you know, if we liked it? Well, it's not that easy. I mean, there's bacteria there. It's a perishable product. It's something that can rotten and that will not, you know, you cannot really do that. The Big Mac, who's going to import Big Macs from Russia into Washington State if the Big Mac in Russia is 20 cents, right? It's not feasible. So how do we build that bacteria and that spice into the product so it cannot be cannibalized? And it allows us to actually do some flexible skewing and have some different business practices. Well, market customization is one of the things. If, let's say, think of the Cold War, imagine that we've got only 2 Windows XP versions. One has an American flag as background. The other one has, you know, the hammer and whatever that's called. I don't know. Thank you. Right? Who would use it here? Really? I mean, obviously people would use it, but we're creating that, we're making that so cultural aware that you can't really consume that product. Yes?
I see the case in point. Turner Wizard here got a high-definition laptop from Japan, and all the menus were only in Chinese characters.
Okay.
And he essentially had to learn some Chinese to get to the file menu. And you'd think, you know, if you want to protect your Latin character base, that seems an obvious thing. Make sure that all the menus are in Tamil, Chinese, and Kanji.
Exactly. So the comment was about someone buying a high-definition laptop who's got the UI just in Chinese, and so that person had to actually learn some Chinese to be able to use it. So if your product is actually in that language and only in that language, then that's pretty spicy already in a way, right? So what we're doing in Longhorn right now is start to make that change into becoming market neutral. So we're considering, So we're considering that it's almost like a mental exercise that the product is already global and just global, plain global, so it works everywhere. And then we're building on top of it, and we're customizing what is out there. And by that, we're moving a bunch of teams already to think into that. And the cool part is that they're saying, well, we didn't know we could do this. Can we do this for the States too? Can we have a different user picture? The most famous example is the user pictures in MSN Messenger, the baseball in there, and that was shipping worldwide. Baseball is played in Asia, and it's played in South America, and it's played in America in general. But like Europe, no one plays Africa either, right? It's like, what is this? What's this baseball ball, right? So that would be an example of something that goes into some regions but not to the rest of the world. And obviously you can start thinking, right, like a cricket bat and things like that for other countries. So again, for every OS component experience, can we customize the visuals? Can we create feature supersets? In the case of Longhorn, what we're doing is we're going for dual calendar views in the clock. That's one of the things we're doing. So when you're in China, you can actually see the Chinese calendar, and you can see the Gregorian calendar all in one place, just like you see it on your wall when you hang the calendar you got somewhere. Can we create new features to complement scenarios that are not really complete for international? So we're creating this market customization kit, which is similar to what a language pack would be. It creates a market pack. And we have just released last week mini packs for XP, just very simple, straightforward, and visually oriented, just to kind of like get a feeling of what people say. So it's basically like a theme on steroids, what we have released. Not a visual style, but a theme, so background, some cursors, some sounds, things like that. And it's being pretty successful so far. So again, it's a horizontal experience across the pillars of the OS, things like web browsing, what is missing, what is not missing, what can we customize there, communications, the core UI, you name it. Games is a big thing. I don't know if I don't know where you guys are all from, but anyways, like the solitaire we play, I'm from Spain, the solitaire we play in Spain is not the solitaire we play here, right? So at the beginning it's like, how does this work? And you have to figure it out. And that's just like a pretty lousy example, but there's very, very concrete local games that are popular and that are not represented by Windows. And there was some instrumentation data provided by MSX just a week ago. Internet Space is the third most used application of the system. Okay, Internet Space. And that includes a user base of 5,500 users that use instrumentation. So it might not be representative of everyone in the States, but that's a third most used application. So that kind of puts things in perspective in a way. So here we go. Visuals and branding. Things like the user picture, new applications, local specific applications, sample pictures, for example. These examples are Mexico. So although the pictures could be generic, like the third one where we see Estado de Baja California, the third one on the second row, could be more or less generic, could be in different places. What we're doing is we're naming them in the local language, and we're saying where that tree comes from. Local user pictures, you've got a Guinness glass there. Although this would never go through with a global product, this can go through now, because it is perfectly geopolitically acceptable, say in Ireland, for example, to have that as a user picture. Not only politically acceptable, but almost like desirable from a user experience perspective, right? So that drastically changes things. We've got functional supersets, Calculator Plus. This is a release our team in Ireland did, our dev team in Ireland did. We've got currency conversion, and we've got unit conversion in it. So there's a third view. You've got standard, scientific, and you've got conversion view. I remember when we were discussing, should we release this, should we not? So, well, it's easy, let's just do it, see what happens. This thing is getting 100,000 downloads a month. Okay? And I mean, it's almost like the fourth or fifth English download right now. And the downloads above that are the blaster removal tool, and I don't know the exact numbers today, that was a month ago. But the blaster removal tool, then there was some security fix, and MSN Messenger, I think.
And where are these downloads from?
The download center.
Yeah, but how does somebody find out that it exists?
Oh, what we do is we do promotion in the local websites. So ms.com, MSN helps us sometimes, and it's obviously also like the download center itself kind of like shows what's new and what's the top download, so people kind of like go and click on it. PR has done some great work. Local PR has done some great work with magazines and things like that to actually publicize these things. One of the things we did, and we'll see in the video, is a screensaver for when more European countries came into the European Union. We did a screensaver with all the flags and stuff. And although the download numbers are pretty impressive, but not so big like this one's, the European Parliament basically sent a thank you letter to Microsoft and said that they had installed that in all their computers. So that alone is worth the effort of doing that. So we got new features. So a new feature would be text messaging is huge in Asia. It's huge in Europe. It's kickstarting in the States. But I mean, it's been huge in Europe and in Asia for like 3-4 years, and we've been talking about this for so long. So we released a mini applet that actually helps you send text messages. So you plug your phone, you can basically type it, choose your contacts from the computer, send it. That's all it does. Very successful too. We will. It is pretty sure that we might have this in Longhorn actually, in the accessories telecommunications folder, or accessories communication folder. Have this application there. On the right-hand side, something we wanted to do that will be unlikely is actually have some proper integration with WAP, with Outlook Express, and with other OS components to actually synchronize, have a mobile phone center in a way, and synchronize pictures, synchronize SMS messages, synchronize contacts, eventually games and other things. But that is unlikely to happen for Longhorn. So how do we get this done, more or less? Well, we've got 40 plus in-country PMs. These guys have been focusing on talking to people in an almost informal way, looking at what is popular freeware and shareware in those countries, what magazines seem to value the most, and they've been filling up this database of ideas and opportunities for more than a year and a half now. In this idea database, we have selected those that were easy to do or feasible to do, that we thought would get a bigger impact or PR impact and so on. And SMS Sender, the Calculator Plus, and all that are just projects that came out of that. So they're working now on having a very precise and detailed look at our customers. So there's this Personas project that will be completed in January 17th, where we are doing some proper or improper for pros. So that goes for you, Tracy, market research. So our best effort market research on end users, knowledge workers, and academia, so either teachers or students. We're going to create these councils where we will have representative users and customers from the above categories. And we're gonna validate what we thought they were with them, and kind of have this ongoing process of understanding our customers and documenting our customers in a way. And also we will be validating our ideas, projects, getting some ideas from the community, and so on. So in a way, we want to have a very customer-driven process, at least a vetting process, where they can say, no, we don't like this, okay, so we won't do it. We want to have partnerships with local institutions, either through programs or either through content and technology. And these in-country PMs also help to drive in content. Let's say we build a holiday calendar, and we would like to have some cultural information on that particular holiday, say Thanksgiving. So we would have this phrase saying that Thanksgiving was originated by Pilgrims and Native Americans, and just maybe 2-3 lines. But it's a very good cultural bridge between the OS and the user. And also they're going to be creating out-of-band solutions just like they have in the past. But this time we're going to be doing some very serious development in country with partners, universities, and things like that. Things are released as Power Toys, no support, nothing. Okay, they're still Microsoft products, but...
The 40-plus people in country, are those Windows
yes.
specific people?
Yeah, Windows, all Windows. Office has some planners in country, in some countries, and have some log PMs in country too. I'm not entirely sure how it's working right now, but these are just PMs, like Windows in country PMs. Yes, they look at the whole product cycle, like from beginning to end. And we could say that this is one of the planning stages of the product cycle. So market PMs, I'm actually a market PM. There's more market PMs coming on board. We've got one for digital media. I'm looking at Wing Client. What we do is look at the big picture, and everything we get from the in-country PMs plus all those regions in the world we will have in-country PMs, try to look at trends, try to look at the common denominator, and then look at the differences, and basically do a lot of planning and of prioritizing on what should be done. We interact with core teams, feature PMs, with, so let's say someone in Wing Client developing a wizard or something like that, or the clock is a good example. Design, so we make sure that anything we release is actually compliant with our design policies. Obviously devs and others. User research a lot, both from an ethnography perspective and also from a market data or more concise data perspective. And we're trying to loop in with planning for Blackcomb now. So start talking now about what Blackcomb will be like. We're in the same org as the in-country PMs. And as I said, we identify cross-market trends and priorities, make recommendations, and basically we focus on in-band solutions. So what is going to ship with the product? And let's make sure that everything we ship out of band follows the same kind of strategy. So if we see that, for example, social computing is a very big thing worldwide and is a particular area where we should invest because it's completely different in the States, like the case of text messaging was in the past, and I'm just making this up, okay? So we should probably be releasing out-of-band stuff in that area too, and not only in band. So make sure that we get our priorities straight across the board. We've got the GIFT team. It's a very, very important team in our division. They are the platform, in a way. These are the guys that have successfully implemented MUI and got everyone on board on MUI, do all the globalization work, NLS, fonts, all these kind of things. Everything that without, in a way, the system couldn't be used internationally. They have a user experience team, and this is pretty new, with a designer and technical writers, and that actually own the UI design of our components and will be driving the UI design of the things that we ship with Longhorn, and also the media acquisition of sample images and things like that. And also the overall user experience. So in a way, they make sure that we're on the same page as Windows is and, basically the MSX team. So the video. Let's see if I see this. Oh. So this is about everything we've released in the past year.
I'd like to build the world a home.
This is a screensaver that was done for France, Germany, and a few countries. Cold countries, let's say.
It's the real thing, what the world wants today, that's the way it will stay, with the real thing, it's the real thing, won't you hear what I say, what the world needs today, is the real thing. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. I'd like to teach the world
So credits go to our group manager for doing that. So that's basically, but we're trying to get everyone enthused about this, so I hope you like the song. So that shows more or less everything we've been doing across the board. And there's, I didn't mention in the teams, there's the CTC team in China, there's a team in Japan. I have developers and testers, and they've been doing some really good work too. We've got people in India now, not a dev center or anything, but we've got an SPM, an in-country PM in India now, doing really, really great stuff. If you saw that MSN screensaver with the heads, that's where it comes from. So, so today Longhorn is language neutral, but it's not market neutral or agnostic. If we're, as I said before, we're supposing that the market base is global. We're supposing that the base is market global or whatever. I don't know how to put this. And so we're trying to complement what is existing with other stuff. We are working on setup. The way Longhorn setup and the UBI will be is you will choose your language first. So you will get to this step where it says choose your language. You would choose, say, French, hit next, everything becomes French from that point on. And I believe that even French is listed as Français. So what we want to do there is actually choose French and then choose where you are. Say, if I chose French, I could be most likely in France, in Switzerland, Belgium. I could be in Morocco. I could be in Tunisia. I mean, there's a bunch of places where they speak French regularly. So once we know where we are, once we know the language, as I said, we load the language pack and everything becomes French. Once, yes?
I was just going to ask, so when, say, you're in Canada and you're French Canadian versus French France, do you have that option then to get, or like Brazilian Portuguese versus Portugal Portuguese? Like when you choose it, does it have the options?
Yes, absolutely. The case of Portuguese is different because we have two flavors. We have Brazilian Portuguese localization flavor and an Iberian Portuguese localization flavor. So we have two different language packs. But let's take French as example, right? I can say I'm in Canada. The minute I choose I'm in Canada, I'll be offered English or French as default.
And will it be French Canadian, like Canadian French?
No,
French?
it would be, unfortunately, it will be, by default, it will be French standard.
Okay.
But we're working on the log pack. We're working on having regional supersets to the log pack.
Yeah.
One of the things that we want to do is finally get the story straight with the UK, for example, where we got favorites and they keep sending us emails. Favorites is misspelled. It has a U after the O. And we're like, well, we know, but we didn't think you really cared. So, we are working on that, on having those supersets. So there will be a flavor for the UK. There will be a flavor for French Canadian. When, I don't know. But we're working on that. Yeah. However, we've got so many regions to still cover, like languages to still cover, that it kind of like gets pushed away all the time, because we just released Welsh. And I don't know if you've seen the emails, but basically the Welsh government had this big party, and we've got this great PR and stuff, and one of the representatives actually said, to us, this is as important as having the Bible translated into Welsh. So, I mean, that's a pretty big comment, regardless of whether it's the guy exaggerated or not, right? But it's having windows in your language is important, even if you speak English, which is the case there. For visuals, we're going to do all media in the system. So that's all the sample pictures that come with the system, sample music that comes with the system. We're going to try to do that. It's very expensive, but we're going to try to find some creative way of getting music, so local music. Sample videos. I don't know if you've seen the sample video that comes with Movie Maker. Caucasian family in the park in the Northwest. So we're going to try to change that and have something more local for wherever we go. Feature supersets, the clock, calculator. New features, SMS, so text messaging with the phone. Citizen Center, that's almost like a new addition, and hopefully we'll get that in. It's about interacting with your government as a citizen. So where are Where can I file my taxes if I can? Where can I find information on this, on that? How do I interact with my government? And the government engagement team is very excited about this, so hopefully we'll get it in. This is...
Like how small markets you're willing to look at. So if you just take the United States, right, you could do a whole bunch of markets within the United States. So is there some criteria that you apply to say?
Yes. Right now we're going for country. Oh man. Okay, I'll reboot it. We're going for country region right now, and so things like Taiwan we would treat as a region, probably, depending. I mean, that's a complicated story, but we're going by country. So it would be U.S., for example, which is not what we want to do, but this would be the starting point. Then we would like to go into, let's say, state, and then into county. That's what we want to do. That's as deep as we want to go, and then to the main cities in that county or state county. And although this is probably, like in the States, it would be good enough to go and do something by state, probably, and rather not really go down to county. There's some places in the world where it's extremely, extremely important that we do that. Oh no, I'm really bad at typing my password. All right. So I'll go fast on the slides. It's almost an hour now, so we should just get to the question part. This is the functional supersets, the clock. This is the Longhorn clock that we're trying to get there. Notice there's a dual calendar view, there's different time zones, and there's some cultural information on the holiday or the day of the week. This is Citizen Center. There's the SMS application that you saw. The Blackcomb plans, be completely market neutral, language neutral and market agnostic. And I have a slide at the end that will show this better. We spoke about cannibalization, the chicken sandwich example. There's another thing is like if we've got no mobility in the home SKU, say the home SKU is not a mobile SKU, it's not about using it in your laptop, we want to position it as something you use at home, then why should we have support for all these different keyboards and all these different geographies like NLS data and things like that? If that's not going to move, then let's just support the keyboard that is in that market, let's just support the time zones that are in that market, and let's make sure that that product cannot be moved from market to market, for example. So this is the slide I was talking about, and there's one more slide left. So right now what we're trying to do is this. So we have the language pack, which is the MUI resources. We've got the market pack, visuals, supersets, new features, specific settings for that market. And then there's the licensing SKU definition that might vary from market to market. People are talking about, we've got starter edition as one of the examples. There might be some other things that are down there about per user licensing and prepaid licensing per user instead of per machine. There's some things going on. What we want to do is this. So the market pack goes first. What languages do we speak there? What are the core components we have to install visually and supersets and things like that? And what licensing and SKU definition do we do in that market? That's kind of like the dream goal. So that's it. Now you can die. Okay, thanks.
This is great stuff. I'm ecstatic to see it. I wish we'd done it for XP. We might be in a very different position if we had. My big fear, though, is all these wonderful things are going to be adopted in places where computers are already popular. In places where computers are not already popular.
Where are we going to do that?
What are we going to do there?
Yes. So the question is about this market customizations and this local window strategy is going to be great in places where we've got computers already. What do we do where computers are widely used? What do we do in places where computers are not widely used? Are we planning anything? So I would say that falls more into the emerging markets. I would try to look at the whole broad set of markets, and I think that there's very good people figuring that out. And we hope that once that team or other teams, once we start getting computers in there, even if it's shared computing or whatever is happening there, that this is a value add. that this is something that helps people relate to the system and not feel alienated with technology. We hope that we'll be able to do that. There's a lot of projects about breaking, in a way, the cultural divide between a computer and the user, and we're thinking on things like history of my region or history of this or of that, and include that in the system as part of the market pack. Like we're thinking about community projects and on local applications like code bashes and things like that, where we would say, let's create an application to learn how to spell, for example, for this specific market, or how to multiply, add, whatever, like educational things. And hopefully the community can do that. We just provide a very basic framework to do that kind of stuff. But then through the market pack, we point to these kind of things. We make it very easy for the user to either download them or get a separate CD. There's some IP issues, and there's some things that actually make it very difficult for us to ever ship, even if we developed it, ever ship these kind of things with Windows. But in a way, the market pack will be, you know, if you're familiar with the 80-20 principle, will be kind of like the 20, and then we hope that that 80 comes from somewhere else, and we just make it very easy for people to go there and get it. Excuse me, yeah. And just a second, he's been with his hand up for a while.
So I have two questions about what you said a few minutes ago. So you want to get the customization down to the state and county?
So the question is about getting down to the state and county and customization?
Yeah, my first question. So I call up Dell and I order a computer. Is that computer customized for Texas, or Dell will literally customize computers for every city and county in America?
Okay. So let me answer that one first, because there's people online listening. So I'll just. So the question is, if Dell goes and ships a computer, do they actually have to go and customize it for the exact place it is going, or how do they do that? It works very similar to what the way language works today. So the OEM gets the computer, gets all the market packs, gets all the language packs in the OEM CDs. They say, okay, I'm going to the US. What would you like to include? Which market packs do you want to include? All of them? All of them. Once the user boots the machine, they get to choose. Where am I? Here. Hopefully we'll get to a point, I mean, in the US it's very straightforward, where you plug the computer to the internet, we do a reverse IP lookup, boom, we know where you are, we just customize it for you. But right now is, you get there and it says, okay, my language is English. Let's say they want to ship Spanish in the States, for example, for different people, right? So you've got English and Spanish, you choose English. You've got your state, you choose your state. If you want to go more granular, you can. And that's it. It's kind of like the GeoID that is in the system right now. We're only picking that up first, and when we know where you are, we're going to populate all these things. And then nothing will stay on the computer. Basically just your language pack and your market pack get installed. The rest is on the CD. Right?
What if I move?
Well, again, if you have home, you can't move, right? No, if you move, you do the same thing. You go to the system, you change it, and you apply.
So it is on the CD?
It's on the CD. If they decide to include it, it's up to the OEM what they do. But hopefully it's on the CD, or at least you can revert to the US standard customizations, let's say, rather than the Texas ones or something.
So my second question had to do with the comment you made about home not supporting the multiple languages.
Yes.
So say I'm an immigrant, Chinese immigrant, I moved to Seattle or Vancouver, BC, for example.
Yeah.
I exchange emails with relatives back home. I need the multiple
Absolutely.
keywords.
Yes. So the question is about home not supporting different languages. Maybe I didn't explain it right. It's not about not supporting different languages in the sense that I cannot type in, let's say, in Hebrew or in another language, but it is about I might not be able to actually have physical things that are in that market. So in a way, it's using the market. Let's say we want home not to be a mobility thing, and there are some mobility things related to the market pack. So we would move those mobility things into the market pack to make sure that you can't move in a way. It doesn't mean that it would not support input methods, or it would not support, might actually not support input methods. That would be a bad thing, because no, input methods actually go with the language pack. So, and the language pack should be available. So, but there will be some things like I might not be able to get soccer scores, maybe, and that's a stupid example, but, or theater let's say, movie theater times or things like that for, let's say, Israel, if I'm here. But some things like that. But we can actually complement the positioning of the SKU with the market pack. That's what I was trying to say. I don't remember the order. Do you know? Okay. Yes. Sorry.
So is customization to be done by end users or third-party developers?
Yes and no.
Yes.
So basically, we want them to provide us content, if applicable, and so we will create some programs around some third-party programs, not how do you say programs? Not programs as in code programs, but as in collaboration, like partnerships, in which
SDKs.
Yeah, kind of like SDKs or kind of like the government engagement program is today. So we would actually gather the content from them. We would pack it up and release it, or pack it up, give it back to them and release it. But we don't want to share the technology with them. We don't want. We want one of the great things about this is that, and communities and third parties is that we're allowing people to be creative without needing to code, which is kind of like the Linux story. So you want to do something, let's talk about it. What do you need? You need this content, you need this other content. Fine. Get it for us, we'll pack it up, we'll release it for you. Or we'll add it. Or I want this feature, let's go into it, even if it's just for a market. So that's more or less the goal.
But we don't really allow end users or third parties to develop by themselves and implement or change the UI or the features or functionality in their machine.
No, we will not allow third parties or end users to actually create these packs by themselves. We'll probably allow partners and governments and some customers to create their own packs or their own customization packs, but we will not open it too much. At least that's not the plan right now. David, do you know who's next?
All right. The gentleman behind the lady there.
I just wanted to comment first question. That's okay.
Okay.
So it's my turn. So I'm just wondering, I'm still probably, because I probably missed the first part of the presentation, I don't get the logic behind the thing, why the home can also support like multiple supersets. Like 2 years ago, I bought a Sony laptop, and there was preload with Microsoft. What is it now? XP Home. And I speak Chinese and English, so I definitely want to install both Chinese and English at my desktop.
Yeah. I agree with you. So the question is about
so the
that you couldn't.
Is why we kind of like reverse the part or
yes.
limited the choice for me as a laptop. I mean, I use the laptop and laptop preload with the
absolutely. So the question is about you bought a laptop that came with Home. And then you couldn't install Chinese on top of it because the Chinese English pack, Chinese.
No, I would use Chinese and English, both Chinese and English. But I mean, that comes, if the long haul comes with policy like this.
Yes, no, absolutely.
That older laptop would be preload with Pro only.
Yes. So that's a marketing decision, and I don't agree with it either. Okay. So the language is not a feature, although it can be a feature if you need to have 18 languages, but it should not be a feature. It's a cultural thing, and it's kind of like you have the right to read in your language, period, and the product should provide it, period. Be it Home, be it Pro, be it Server, be it whatever, right? And so the decision that was made in the past was not to support MUI on Home, and that's something that marketing decided, and product line decided that they would sell, that the revenue would be better despite the dissatisfaction or whatever. So that's a decision that was made. What I said, and I think I confused everyone, is if Home, let's say Home it's not about mobility. Let's just suppose that. It's not about mobility. Or it's not about business, like the way you cannot connect to a server, authenticate against a domain and do things like that, right? Or participate in a domain with Home Edition. You need Pro. The same way we're doing that, we can define, also the market pack can help define those things in the sense of saying, well, maybe I don't have more support than 3 languages. For example, a Home user might have support for 3, might need 3 languages, but not more than 3. So maybe we would limit that. That's all I'm saying, that it allows to also be consistent with whatever marketing decides, be it right or be it wrong from a market customization or cultural perspective, but it allows to do those things. And I think it's a good thing that the architecture allows to do those things.
Do you have any information about the pricing for their home and Longhorn home and Pro? I mean, what's the price difference?
From the top of my head, I think it was something like $95 against 150 something. It's like 50% more expensive or 60% more expensive, but I don't know if I'm talking about the OEM
Yeah, we have
version.
Longhorn pricing information. You don't have Longhorn.
Oh, Longhorn. No, I'm talking about XP. No, I don't know.
Oh, no, I'm talking about...
No, I don't know. But it's not twice as expensive, I think. Yes.
Once you customize per state, will anybody dare to buy Great Plains software if you live in the mountainside? Or will they expect you to break because it is in the wrong state?
Oh.
If you fragment the US market into 500 markets, you can destroy the software ecology. People nowadays assume you buy a piece of software, it works on Windows, period.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The question is about the software not working if you change region or if you change... No, the software works. It's more about, let's say that people in, I don't know, in New York are fans of playing the lottery or the lotto or whatever, right? So let's say we have this applet that comes by default in the system that helps you fill out those lotto things, okay? And then I move and I go to Washington, and people in Washington hate the lotto, right? So if I'm from New York, I might still want to play. That's one of the things. But if I really integrate and now hate the lotto, well, I just won't use it, kind of thing. But I'll still probably carry around a bunch of sample backgrounds of New York because I still like it. But if I want to, I can just apply whatever is the equivalent for Washington in a way. So things don't stop working. They just look very local and behave very local and provide very local specific functional requirements that might not be applicable in another place. So let's say I'm getting soccer scores. I'm a fan of soccer and of Barcelona and all that, and maybe that comes only with the Spanish pack and not with the American pack because people are not like that here. But maybe I can still get that kind of information. There's a lot of overlap about what is personal interest, what is cultural interest, what is cultural needs, what are regional requirements and things like that. But we hope we'll figure it out. But obviously, right now we're talking with the Longhorn team about there's going to be an animated background thing that kind of like moves and stuff, and that's some things that we're going to customize that. And we're saying, well, if we do a beautiful background for Paris, why shouldn't someone from New York have it if they want to? And the answer is yes, but should it be the default background for New York? Probably not.
But in a way, I think you're raising a different question, which is if you develop in users an expectation of local behavior, then wouldn't you expect that local behavior to extend into an application?
And then a lot of companies go bankrupt because they have their market shrink by a factor of 50, unless you do it per county, where it shrinks by a factor of 1,000. What built this industry is the fact that you put one copy of the duplicator and you sell it from coast to coast, sometimes from across the planet.
Yes, and yes, okay. So you're saying about being so customized that actually
things break.
Things break. Yes, and that should never happen. We shouldn't go that line. What we should do is focus on the visual part. Let's say, for example, that the application shows a picture or a webcam or something like that. We should be able to meet the local requirement, but then be able to be flexible. If you go somewhere else, you can change it to the local one there and so on. It shouldn't be a core, in a way, I guess the answer is it shouldn't be a core part of the functionality that alters the way the product behaves among states. But again, the way we're looking at it is about markets, and maybe it should among markets in the sense of if we don't want people, like in Mexico, the software is more expensive due to inflation things. People come to the States, buy it, go back to Mexico. It's a big loss for Microsoft Mexico, for example. It's something they keep looking at, right? And that's sort of cannibalization. If a US product is so American that a Mexican would say, I'm not using, this is too Greek or whatever, something like that, that's a good thing. That's what I'm saying. But it shouldn't be a functional thing, that it just does not work if you're reverse IP lookup, it says that you're in Mexico. That's not as far as we get. Think of the Coke can and how the Coke can is always red and it's always, you can see the brand, but if you buy it in an Arabic country, then it will be written in Arabic and it will have some different things. And if you buy it in the States, and you will have Santa, and think of it that way.
They do adjust their formula.
Oh yes, and they do adjust their formula.
What's in the can is different.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that was going to be my point.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess the product beats Microsoft's main motto of being a global company, I guess, because you seem to, you're localizing markets where people want to know about different cultures. I'll give you an example. I grew up in the Middle East, but I wouldn't want to have an Arabic desktop on my machine. Mm-hmm. I'd like to, say, listen to Tom Pettings or American Western music. Mm-hmm. And I know 10,000 people of my relatives across the world wouldn't want to have a localized desktop.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, you seem to narrow down your SKU in such a way that you'll have maybe 1,000 people might buy it. It's not it's worldwide.
Yes. Think of it, and I probably didn't express it right, but think of it of the Cartesian product of your location, not where you were born, your location, so where you are right now, and the language you want to read.
Right.
If you don't want to read in Arabic, don't load it. If you are in Washington, say you're in Washington, or basically just tell the system, I don't care, just put something standard. And that's what corporations will do, for example. Right. But let's say I'm in the Middle East, and I don't want to read Arabic, and I don't want the Arabic background. I can say it.
Right.
Right. It's not. I'm not forcing anyone to have it. Right. Let's put the example of for example, Tunisia, where almost everyone speaks Arabic, and some people and a lot of people speak French, for example, among other languages, and Spanish. Right.
Right.
So, what is my preferred language? My preferred language is, let's say, Spanish. Where am I? I'm in Tunisia, or I can say, I don't care where I am. I'll get, one thing is the language, so the thing I will use to read and input stuff, and the other part is the market part, which is totally independent and unrelated to it.
Right.
And it depends on where I am.
Yeah,
and I can still say, I don't want, what do you care where I am? I don't want anything. Fine.
But I think you're ignoring the fact that many people in the world, quote unquote, like the West.
Yes.
They want an international brand.
They want the international brand.
Yes.
They want to drink Coke. They want to do this. They want to do that. Whatever the West sets precedents.
Yes. Yes.
And you seem.
You still have that choice. You still have
that choice. Exactly. But I still have the choice. But how many people are going to use the choice? That's what I'm saying.
The choice.
Make that choice
of having a local thing. You'd be surprised.
I'll be surprised.
You'd be surprised. Yes. It's not, I mean, in this case, it's not like I hate the West and that's why I'm saying this. It doesn't go to that extent. Think of Bliss, the Bliss background, and just think that there would be a motif there, a very slight motif that would remind you of the Middle East, for example. Right? It's not really showing, anything offensive or anything of any political source or anything like that. It would just be almost like a geographic thing. Right? So it would be these kind of things. It's not like, kind of like a Meca-Cola kind of thing. It's not like that, right? It's just, there would be something that would remind you of that. Or the moon, the way you see the moon in Thailand is different than the way you see it in the northern hemisphere. So maybe if there's a background with an animated moon, then the moon would actually be flipped a little bit, just like in Thailand. It would look just like it looks there. It wouldn't look like a Western moon in a way. And if they want to, they can have it look as a Western moon. It's this part, like in the Coke can. It's just a little thing. It doesn't say like, screw the West. It's just, there's a little thing.
But you do tie the population demographic to your products, do you? I mean,
in what sense?
For example, I'll give you an example. Like, I grew up in an island called Bahrain.
Okay.
Where the indigenous people who speak Arabic are only 20%.
Okay.
And 80% speak everything else in the world.
Okay.
So, I mean, are you going to take the population demographic while you sell that product, say, for example, to a country called Bahrain?
Yes, absolutely.
You probably will.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Like,
because I mean,
we've got all this. I mean, marketing will define those things.
Right.
Given, I mean, there's a lot of things that are there, but basically the answer is yes, we can, and yes, we know how to.
Right.
We'll see how. You will see what they let us do and how it goes.
Just a point of clarification is that what Ignacy is doing is putting together the framework that would enable making these kind of things possible. He's not going into the nitty-gritty as to which color wallpaper, which kind of background will go and be put into the Bahrain culture pack or whatever we want to call it,
Right.
or the India culture pack. Like that will be driven by marketing. But what
Marketing and branding,
Ignacy's specialty is to put together the framework, the SDK, or so that government or our partners in the local areas, in the overseas countries, they can do these kind of things, make these kind of things possible.
What's the combination of languages, market packs that you can have on a SKU? Because it seems that you open all the options where I could buy English language, for example, but I want my own market flavor. And I could potentially be from everywhere else in the world. Like today, I found difficult to buy just the language that they speak natively in the States. Within Microsoft,
it's not. It's not possible.
I found difficulty.
Oh, internally you can find it. Yes, but yeah, that's again. Thanks, David. My job is making sure that whatever combination is possible. Now, the amount of possible combinations someone else will decide. Okay, but I have to make sure that you can choose Italian and say I'm in Hawaii. I have to make sure that is technically possible. Now, if that's a reasonable thing to do, it's not up to me. Okay, but yes.
Before you take language agnosticism for granted, one point. Current support, not only Microsoft but others, but for right-to-left languages is execrable.
Yes.
Basically, a telephone number breaks all Hebrew software I've known, and I'm sure Arabic and Farsi and Urdu don't do any better. Yes. And that's a few 100 million people.
Yes.
So, just somebody should put it as a checklist item.
Yes, and that's and again that's a globalization thing, right? And that's the people that look after globalization are taking care of that and are working very hard to make sure that that works. And I don't think that anyone should underestimate the kind of work that is being done around mirroring and enabling other markets, and especially right to left. But that is, in a way, it is related, but it's not part of what the market pack is about.
Well, thank you, Ignacy.
Well, thank you, guys.
Will you be sure to do anything with your slide location?